What's up, guys? I actually want to go over what I use in Destiny all the time when it comes to builds. I actually have two main builds. I have a Charge of Light build, which is there for close to endgame, but not Grandmaster level. Like raids and trials are just like great for Charge of Light because you always get that extra damage. But to first go off of Charge of Light, first mod that I use often is Radiant Light. Pretty much the basics of this, if you pop your super, everyone that's close to you becomes Charge of Light, which is great because, if you're running through raids and you're all using all these other damage things that, go away after you kill something, always being able to get your Charge of Light back quickly from someone popping a super or just anything in general, really good. Plus, if you're using an arc mod on any part of your actual build, you get also 20% strength, which is really good. For the next mod that I use is High Energy Fire, which is a staple for anything that you use for damaging things. What High Energy Fire does, if you Charge of Light, you get bonus weapon damage to any combatant you want, bosses included, and once the enemy dies, that one charge stack actually goes away. But again, if you're utilizing Radiant Light and someone's popping a super, you're always gonna have Charge of Light. The next Charge of Light mod I like to use is Supercharge. I tend to go towards these solar additional stacking charges instead of, the void ones, but primarily because all the void stacking ones do, they always have a negative reaction to stat. But if you're using the solar ones, you have these ones with no negative effects, so it's only positive, so you gain 2 additional stacks of Charge of Light, which honestly, if you're stacking these, then you have a lot of Charge of Light, so you rarely run out. For the next one, this has pretty much been a staple this season, is what is called Lucent Blade. Pretty much what this does, if you're Charge of Light and you damage something with your sword does additional damage for another 5 seconds. Once the 5 seconds are up, it consumes that Charge of Light, but if you're rocking an arc mod with it, you gain increased charge rate for your equipped sword. This works wonders with the exotic sword Lament, which is why you see a lot of damage out there when people are using Lament along with this mod. Lastly, for the last Charge of Light mod I use Taking Charge. The main reason for this, because with Taking Charge, if you collect an orb, you become Charge of Light, which is great if you're using any type of energy weapon or primary that's masterwork, because you get 2 kills. Oh look, there's an orb of light you get to pick up, you Charge of Light. This is a great combination that you go through, and it's amazing that you just always be Charge of Light, so you're always doing damage, so you're always surviving through these mid-tier and high-end PvE events. When I come through recommendations, I honestly say the first 3 you should work towards for your build is Taking Charge, Supercharged, and High Energy Fire, just because you're always getting Charge of Light from orbs you're picking up. You have additional stacks with Supercharge, and you're doing bonus weapon damage with High Energy Fire. The rest is personal preference. The main reason I always use Lucent Blade is because I'm always in the raid helping people out. You always need help with that. I do raid help every Thursday on Twitch. The link for that's going to be in the description down below. But for the next build, we're actually going to be looking at the warmind build, which is just crazy for high clear. Okay, for the first mod, what I enjoy using, especially for raid content or just any high-end content, is warmind's protection. First, what this does is if you're near a warmind cell, any point in time, if it's yours or if your allies, you take reduced damage from all enemies. This is one of those mods that is really useful in Grandmaster, especially if you're trying to just primarily survive in that and not damage. For the next one, it's going to be Chosen of the Warmind. First, what this happens, if you collect or destroy any Warmind cell, it pushes back all the enemies near it. Again, this is one of those mods that's great for Grandmaster, because if you get to a strike that everything's up close and you want some breathing room, you could just destroy one of your Warmind cells and it pushes all of them back. Next, for another Warmind mod, is one of my favorites. It's Wrath of Rasputin. Pretty much any type of solar flash damage you have has a chance to create a Warmind cell. This is for people who love to run Sunshot, love to run Xeno, and just go for a complete destruction for solar damage. This creates Warmind cells, and you can just chain them over and over again, so you always have so much ad clear that you barely have to even pay attention to any enemies. The next one is my other favorite for Warmind, is Rage of the Warmind. Pretty much, it adds solar damage to your Warmind cell when you destroy it. This nearly one-shots almost every mid-tier enemy in the game. It even clears out rooms for the raid, so ads become literally a second thought, and especially with the Prophecy Dungeon, with the final room, you have Scions everywhere to always multiply. This keeps them all in check, so you don't have to worry about it, so you just focus on the knights and the action mechanic. For the last one, which is still one of the more crucial ones, you have have global reach. Pretty much the essential of global reach is the effect and damage of targets for your warmind cells is greater. Radius that used to be like small to medium, where you barely have like a large pool of enemies that would all die. This increases it tenfold. Pretty much, if we're going back to the example of the prophecy dungeon, that boss room, that entire room would be clear if you're in the center of it and you pop that warmind cell. For the basic of the warmind, there's only 3 mods that are extremely crucial for a basic warmind build. Would be global reach, so you always have that distance. You got that rage of the warmind, so you have that solar additional damage, and you got wrath of the Rasputin, which is pretty much warmind cells will create other warmind cells, and if you want to use Sunshot or Xeno, those will also create warmind cells, so it's pretty much accurate on end. Now, for what I assume is places for these builds, for raid content, for most of the raid, I'm using Charge of Light. The main reason for that is during the second encounter and the light room on the first encounter, your warmind cells could actually trigger a wipe mechanic. For the second encounter, if you kill your warmind cell and it's almost damage phase, like he's about to go to Extinction Protocol, it will actually do damage to every boss in that room and cause you to wipe because you technically damaged the wrong one. And people in your fire team will know who to blame because you have that damage marker when no one else did. And the reason you wouldn't want to use this primarily in the light room in the first encounter for the raid, because occasionally it happened a few times before I switched over to fully Charge of Light builds, that if you killed a warmind cell on light on the bottom floor, can have the chance to detonate one of the panels even if you're not operator. That's why in primarily of content, especially with how I do with raids and other mid-tier to end-tier activities, I'm primarily sticking with Charge of Light just because it has more utility. It has way more damage output potential, especially if you're utilizing all your weapons and abilities, and I can't recommend these enough. The way to get these mods now, because a couple of seasons ago you were able to get all the warmind cell mods if you played the season, but nowadays the way to get these mods is you have to visit Banshee every day, and sometimes occasionally he will sell a mod. He has sold warsat mods like 3% of the chance is a warmind mod, which is really low, but when it happens, a must have to pick it up because these builds are so good, and I don't think they'll ever go away for a couple seasons. Anyway, guys, I love you all. I'll see you guys later. If you need help with the raid or you just want to chill, I stream on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Primarily Destiny content because Destiny is still my favorite game to play right now. But if you need a place to hang out or need help with anything, catch you there. Anyway, guys, I love you all. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. Peace.